Wait. Sorry. No, not you. I'm waiting for you.
Waiting for me to stand?
I guess. I don't know. I'm new.
That's all right.
Oh, wait. Todd's telling me to wait. The other Todd. Are we good now? Okay. Let's sing our big opening number.
Good morning. Thank you. And I want to, of course, begin by welcoming Olivia. Thank you so much for sharing your lovely voice and incredible talent with us today, filling in for Madeline. Appreciate it. And welcome to all of you. It's a little echoey, Todd. I'll just keep talking until you figure it out. But anyway, good morning. Thank you. Good morning and welcome to all of you as well. As usual, we begin by welcoming all of you to this space, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where we join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or, as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and live justly. Welcome, as always, again to each of you, whether you are in the room with you, whether you are live streaming with us, whether you are Zooming with us this morning. We embrace all that you come with, all of your uniqueness, your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, your differences, and everything that helps make you who you are. So welcome to everyone. I do want to remind you, this is the start of a historic week here in Spokane at the Unitarian Universalist Church. It is when our North American Unitarian Association, NAUA's first yearly summit is going to take place. That'll begin officially on Friday and Saturday, and then conclude with our service next Sunday. So a lot of things. You can go online. If you haven't registered, please do. You can go online and look at the schedule. But a couple of key points to know is our keynote speaker, John Wood Jr. with Braver Angels, among other many things in his life, will be presenting to us next Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific. So mark that on your calendars and be here for that in whatever way that you are able to attend. And next Sunday will be different for us. We are going to have one service at 10 a.m. So important note. That's this way we can bridge as best we can between the folks who come at 11 and the folks who come at 9:15. But we think it's going to be best, since that'll be in somewhat our closing celebration of the summit, to have everybody together at one time. So next Sunday will be different. Our service, I should say, will be at 10 a.m. So keep that in mind as well. Okay, so the other thing before we, let me welcome our Zoom attendees before we move on to the next thing. I can look over my shoulder and see a pretty good crowd here this morning. Thanks everybody for being here. Who's hosting this morning?
Well, that would be me, Todd, Gail Sandlin.
Hey, Gail.
We're all here, and welcome the Spokane congregation. With us, we have Ron, back from his travels. Probably has a lot of great stories. We have Jeffrey, who will be actually one of the Zoom hosts next week. And hey, we have sound. I heard that last week there wasn't any sound, and it was a wonderful service. And we have Sherry, Irwin, and Julie, who occasionally come in, but they're here today. I don't know if either of you want to say hi or introduce yourselves to the group and update what you've been doing.
This is Sherry Irwin. I'm saying hi, and delighted to be here. I'm looking forward to joining the summit in person next weekend.
Wow, great. We'll look forward to having you. Yeah, well, welcome.
Yeah, Julie.
Welcome to one and all. I do look forward to seeing those in person who can be here as well. Glad we have different mediums for attending, but it'll be a great day, a great weekend next weekend. And Ron Strange, welcome back from your travels, my friend. I appreciated staying with you when I was in Port Townsend not too long ago and hanging out and walking around, so I could only see you walking miles and miles on your recent trip.
So thank you, Todd. And unless Julie wants to say hello, we'll move on, because, hey, everyone else you probably know and hear from every week, but if someone wants to speak up and say a hello to Todd, please do.
Okay.
No?
Good. That's okay. I think Lynn Janician has something she wants to say.
I just wanted you to let them know, because I missed the sound last week too. I was on Zoom, but the 11 o'clock service did record, and it is worth going back and listening.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, Lynn makes a good point. Apologies, of course, for the technical troubles we had, especially on such a important service that had to do so much with audio and sound. But it was successfully recorded, and you can go online and watch the second service. And we apologize for the technical difficulties. It turns out that there was a button that got switched. It was a minor problem, but a major headache. So I'd like to promise you it would never happen again, but I can't do that because it's technology. Something is always bound to happen. But thank you all so much for tolerating us, and I do hope that you'll go back and watch the Creation Spirituality of John Denver if you haven't done so already, because it's one of my favorite services, and it was really especially beautiful last week. So, okay, thank you all for being here. I do want to, before we greet one another this morning, I'm going to give a dog truth. Thank you, Gab, so much. Gab sent me several that will probably last just a while, but given the topic today, I'm actually going to read two because they're so good. I shouldn't overindulge like this, but I'm going to. And these are just quotes. I don't give any attribution, but the first one is, the best way to predict your future is to create it. And dogs can teach us how to chase after our dreams with relentless enthusiasm. And then the other one is, dogs don't wait for the perfect moment. They make every moment perfect. Thank you. Now, please do take a few moments to greet one another.
Hello, folks.
So that was an enthusiastic greeting of one another. That's all we have to do is start talking about the spirit of the dog, and we start acting like dogs, which is a good thing. All right, we are going to move forward now by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world, and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
For our opening reflection, I offer the words from the prologue to the book, The Coming Wave, by Mustafa Suleyman, on the topic of what do the coming waves of technology mean for humanity? On the one hand, the potential benefits of these technologies, AI and biotechnology, are vast and profound. With AI, we could unlock the secrets of the universe, cure diseases that have long eluded us, and create new forms of art and culture that stretch the bounds of imagination. With biotechnology, we could engineer life to tackle diseases and transform agriculture, creating a world that is healthier and more sustainable. But on the other hand, the potential dangers of these technologies are equally vast and profound. With AI, we could create systems that are beyond our control and find ourselves at the mercy of algorithms that we don't understand. With biotechnology, we could manipulate the very building blocks of life, potentially creating unintended consequences for both individuals and entire ecosystems. As we stand at this turning point, we are faced with a choice between a future of unparalleled possibility and a future of unimaginable peril. The fate of humanity hangs in the balance, and the decisions we make in the coming years and decades will determine whether we rise to the challenge of these technologies or fall victim to their dangers. I add here that one thing that should give us pause when considering these comments is they were not written by a human at all. Rather, they were generated by the AI algorithms of a chatbot.
On that note, let's stand and sing I've Got Peace Like a River. I'm going to do all the hand motions. You're welcome to do them with me. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul, down in my soul.
We're now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds, and begin this morning, as we have been, on behalf of the people of Ukraine and Russia and that region of the world that are embroiled in warfare there, the people of Israel and Palestinian people and people in Lebanon and Iran who are also suffering from violence and all the fear and anxiety and loss that goes along with it in the world today. And we kindle a candle for people in our own country who are suffering the worst effects of climate change, with the impacts of the apocalyptic storms last week. Let's take a moment of silence on behalf of others that you might be thinking of, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud at this time if you'd like. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. And we now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps sustain this community and our mission to the larger world.
Don't you listen to no one trying to sell you no high, 'cause heaven is right here if you're doing it right. No, you don't have to wait until you stumble and die, 'cause heaven is right here if you're doing it right. Yeah, heaven is right here if you're doing it right.
Thank you so much. God, that was extraordinary and beautiful in so many ways. Time for our story for all ages, which therefore includes you, if you think about it. So my friend today is our old friend, Avery Mann. It's been a while, Avery Mann. Hello everyone, how are you? Avery, every time you visit, it seems that you have been looking for a new career. So far, let's see, you've been a used car salesman, an inventor, innovator, an innovator, a movie director, a baseball player, and a philosopher. So what are you doing these days? Well, I've become a Shakespearean actor. A Shakespearean actor. I never would have guessed that. Doesn't that take years of professional training? Well, not if you're a natural like me. All I had to do was read Shakespeare through Dunnies and watch a few YouTube videos. Okay, well, it's hard to imagine that you'd be any good at acting, especially Shakespearean acting, without some kind of professional training. I told you, I'm a quick study. Anybody who has had as many jobs as me has to be quick on their feet. Well, in that case, how about giving us an example? Recite something from Shakespeare. Oh, I don't know any Shakespeare. You don't know any Shakespeare? No, I tried to read some of his stuff, but none of it made any sense to me. Too bad he didn't write in English. Yeah, he was English. And just how do you expect to be a Shakespearean actor if you don't know any Shakespeare? Well, it turns out I used my skills as an innovator, yes, to make a tale that makes me sound like Shakespeare. Come on, that's not possible. Sure it is. I'll take one right now. Okay. Then every word out of my mouth is going to sound like Shakespeare. Then before you say another word, it just so happens that I have a new French toast recipe in my pocket. Put it right there. So why don't you just try to make French toast sound like Shakespeare? Fresh eggs I whisk with sugar just and spice. A sprinkle here to make the mixture nice. A dash of cinnamon to tease the nose. In the nix, the tan, the dread now grows. They sizzle, hiss, and turn a golden hue. They tough and crisp a toasty rendezvous. At last I served with syrup drizzled round, a breakfast fit to make the stomach sound. Wow. This must be some kind of a trick. I don't believe it. Let me try one of those pills. Within my pocket doth a till reside, intended solely for thee. Oh, well, thank you. We'll see about this. Behold, now I sound not like the bard himself, do I? Hold, but a moment. I do sound like the bard himself. I can scarce believe it. Did I not tell thee so? Thou shouldst believe me. But I thought not it would truly take effect. I cannot speak thus. I have a service to conduct and a sermon to deliver. I must regain my normal speech once more. Fear not, 'tis but the drawback. The adjective endures but 2 minutes, and thou canst take no more than 1 per day, else it ceases to work altogether. Impressive though thy invention be, thou shalt never secure a role as a Shakespearean actor if thou canst perform but 5 minutes. Do I not already know the truth explained? Let this be a lesson unto thee. Thou canst not take shortcuts if thou wouldst achieve success. Wait thou, the minutest. I think my pill is already wearing off. 9-2. You know, there's an old saying, Avery, anything worth doing is worth doing right. If you really want to be a Shakespearean actor, you're going to have to work hard at it. That's all right. I decided to go work for Disneyland instead. Disneyland? Yep. I've invented a till that makes me sound just like Mickey Mouse, and it lasts for an entire day. Do you want to try one? No thanks. I believe you now. Good luck with your new career, Avery. I hope you enjoy Disneyland. See you later, boys and girls. N-I-C... No, don't start that. Goodbye, Avery. Oh, here we go. Take it away, Olivia. Yay! That guy is crazy.
So, methinks it's time for meditation. So, for today's meditation, I invite you into a state of repose. Make yourself comfortable. Close your eyes if you like. Breathe deeply, slowly, mindfully. Reflect on the words of Swiss-American psychiatrist and author Elizabeth Kubler-Ross on the sources and nature of human empathy, which arguably has implications for the development of AI. The most beautiful people we have known are those who have known defeat, known suffering, known struggle, known loss, and have found their way out of the depths. These persons have an appreciation, a sensitivity, and an understanding of life that fills them with compassion, gentleness, and a deep loving concern. Beautiful people do not just happen.
Down Louisiana, round Atchafalaya, the highway's suspended to keep out the river. You're driving for miles, aligned with the treetops. I wouldn't have known it to ask. They say in the Delta the water is better. It's deeper, it's quicker, it's sweeter, it's wetter. It's tameless. 'cause I know you better than that. He said, when they bury me right on my grave, where there's water, there's life. What a likable kind. Break down my body, but I know what's true, and it ain't you, it ain't me, it ain't this. The Lafayette flea market's hustling and bustling round 10 in the morning from Friday to Sunday. They're buying and trying on stocking up something, but you wouldn't give a rat's ass. I like when you took me to misty northeastern in cranberry country at night this last spring, and we watched the amphibians crossing the highway. I wouldn't have known it to ask. Gosh, I could scream at the bad self-esteem when the selfishness peaks and we lose it for weeks, all suffering, wandering, lost in the desert with desolate thirst, expecting the worst. You said, when they bury me right on my grave, where there's water, there's life. What a likable kind. You can break down my body, but I know what's true, and it ain't you. So nothing compares to a puddle in springtime, teeming and oozing and hullapaloozing. 'Cause just like you told me, there's life where there's water, and I'm better and smarter for that.
Wow, thank you so much. And that was one of your original songs, yeah, wow. So as a school child, I disliked the study of history almost as much as I disliked the study of math, which is saying a lot. I disliked it because it was boring. What relevance does the past have to a child whose entire life is ahead of him? I cannot visit the past. I cannot change the past. I cannot experience the past. So let the dead bury the dead, as Jesus said, while the living plow ahead. My disinterest in learning about history, either from books or documentaries, lingered well into my adulthood. Although I was immensely interested in learning about some of the greatest ideas of the past, particularly by studying philosophy and psychology, it was the ideas that interested me, not the context in which they were born, nor even the biographies of those who birthed them. It wasn't until I was nearly 40 that I finally began shedding the false idealisms of my youth, grew less interested in figuring myself out, and was truly ready to put my hand to the plowshare and work toward a better future for everyone, that I finally became a student of history. This is so because I realized that today's problems and challenges are not altogether than those made by our ancestors in the near and distant past. So to help us correct some of the major issues we're facing today, it is necessary to learn what caused them long ago. The same way doctors must first understand the causes of illnesses before understanding how to treat them. To improve, we must, as the great scientist and inventor Emmett Brown famously told Marty McFly, go back to the future. Today, I believe, despite all our scientific and technological advances, that humanity has entered a new age of endarkenment. As with the dark ages of the past, today's endarkenment is fundamentally characterized by a widespread insistence on one idea, one right way of thinking, one righteous way of thinking. Only today, instead of there being one specific idea, namely the Roman Catholic doctrine, There are countless one ideas. Yet people are often just as obsessed with the rightness and righteousness of their ideas as were our dogmatic ancestors. We saw this with the reformers who protested Catholic doctrine, only to soon become just as intolerant and cruel towards those they disagreed with. Michael Servetus, the founder of Unitarianism, was condemned and burned alive along with his writings by none other than reformer John Calvin, the founder of Presbyterianism. Likewise, the Lutherans, those who started the Reformation and were persecuted by the Roman Catholic Church, brutally persecuted Unitarianism's theological ancestors, the Anabaptists, out of existence. The Calvinists, who also persecuted the Anabaptists and were themselves persecuted by the Catholics, also clashed with the Lutherans over their theological differences. Later, the Anglicans, Church of England, came along and persecuted the Puritans, the English Calvinists, who fled to America, where they persecuted the Quakers and the Catholics. The animus towards Catholics in the U.S. lasted well into the 20th century, which is why it was such a big deal when John F. Kennedy was elected, the first Catholic. Today, even the Unitarian Universalist branch of Unitarianism, which was found in the 16th century on the very principle of religious tolerance, has finally become entirely intolerant of anyone who disagrees with its neo-racist beliefs, to the point of demonizing, silencing, and excommunicating ministers who dare disagree with them. Here we see the phenomenon known as history repeating itself, doomed to do so by those, as philosopher George Santayana said, who do not learn from history. Today, with the advance of communication technology, differing ideas abound. Far too many for any of us to keep up with or to adequately consider, to possibly consider. In our confusion, many of us seek refuge by finding just one ideology to believe in. Then join with others who share it and become just as insistent that our group's ideology is the one that's right and righteous, and thus feel justified in demonizing and dehumanizing anyone who disagrees with us, just as our ancestors did. Back then, rather than the internet and social media, it was the invention of the printing press that made the spread of so many differing ideas possible, which led to the many instances of ideological persecution and intolerance I just mentioned. But after a century of this, a century of religious wars had finally weakened and worn most people down, they became more open to being open. Intolerance, the insistence that there is but one right and righteous ideology, wasn't working for anyone. It was then, as philosopher Susan Neiman says, the Enlightenment emerged from a blasted landscape, a continent soaked with blood. It was a history of waves of plagues without cure, and ever-returning religious wars in which countless people died. Women were regularly burned alive as suspected witches, men thrown chained into dungeons for writing a pamphlet. Before the Enlightenment of the 18th century came the Renaissance of the 15th and 16th. The Renaissance refers to a renewed interest in history, particularly that of antiquity, before the one idea of Roman Catholicism became dominant. It was a particularly difficult study to undertake, given that the Church, in pursuit of ideological supremacy, destroyed as much as 90% of the writings of antiquity, which means that most of the period's greatest and most important ideas were gone forever. We'll come back to the significance of what little has remained. But first, given that our greatest problem today may be that we've entered into a new endarkenment, caused by too many people vying for ideological supremacy? Let's consider the historical causes of the original such state, the Dark Ages, which began with the fall of the Roman Empire. In retrospect, the Roman Empire is often portrayed unfavorably, and rightfully so in many ways, but ancient Rome also gives us much to admire, particularly under the stable rule of its very first emperor, Octavius, who came to power around 27 BCE and was given the honorary and well-deserved title Augustus, the exalted. Emperor Augustus became hugely popular among his people because he ended 100 years of civil war, that strife, that period of brutal intolerance, and established the Pax Romana, a peace that lasted over 200 years, along with establishing an honest government, a sound economy, a better infrastructure, including roads and buildings and bridges and aqueducts, a postal service, free trade, art and literature, and the successful expansion of the empire. Upon his death in 14 CE, the Roman state deified him, built temples in his honor, and his cult became an important part of the official Roman state's religion. Rome remained the most powerful empire in the world, long past the death of its revered emperor, but its eventual fall in 476 CE marks the beginning of the centuries-long period that became known as the Dark Ages. So to understand some of the potential causes of today's endarkenment, in which intolerance also abounds, we can look back to the causes of the first such period, beginning with the demise of the Roman Empire, resulting from the collapse of its political structures, administrative systems, economic systems, and fragmentation. The weak, divided, and ineffective government made Europe vulnerable to invasion by the Visigoths, the Vandals, the Huns, and later the Vikings and Magyars, which further destabilized Roman provinces and created a power vacuum. Cities then shrank and were abandoned as populations shifted to rural areas. Economic activity declined, and infrastructure such as those roads and aqueducts fell into disrepair. The decline of centralized power also meant that education and literacy became less widespread, which is one of the reasons we now refer to this as the Dark Ages, because of the deterioration of literacy and learning. These changes also led to the breakdown in trade routes and to the flow of merchandise, leading to recession. The loss of central authority also led to feudalism and limited cultural exchange. And finally, these limited interactions with the more widespread world, a world of differences, led to the rise of Roman Catholicism to fill the power void, making dogma the dominant form of intellectual life, to everyone agreeing with and adhering to the one right and righteous idea. We find in this list of causes some parallels in what's going on today. Powerful nations, including the U.S., are becoming weaker because of divided and therefore dysfunctional governments. If not exposed to invasion by neighboring countries, as some of them are, we are exposed to misinformation, disinformation, and cyber attacks perpetrated by foreign actors. The wish to protect ourselves, to be safe, to become great again, makes us want to isolate ourselves from the rest of the world by identifying with specific groups based on things like nationality or race or religion or political party, ideology, and so on. The threat of high levies and foreign goods and potential international trade wars could soon make inflation skyrocket. Further example of how we're closing ourselves off to cultural exchange. Meanwhile, as one nation. Finally, we have extremists on both the far right and left who embrace alternative lead to the demise of our intellectual life, when we are no longer free to think and speak for ourselves, or when books are never enough for us to flourish as a society or to achieve our full potential as individuals. Perhaps these parallels explain what I use instead of dark age, because unlike the dark ages, today's enlightenment, or endarkenment, I should say, is post-enlightenment. Freedom to reason and to tolerance. We have also learned from history that on the few occasions humanity has embraced these liberal principles, it has flourished socially, economically, technologically, scientifically. When these principles are ignored or rejected. These days, because of the great strides we have taken in these areas, thanks to the Enlightenment's unleashing of human innovation and curiosity, we tend to think that we are a lot smarter than our primitive ancestors. But I think they were just as intelligent as us and capable as us, and we are often as primitive in our thinking and behavior today as we imagine they were then. For example, we consider Einstein the father of modern physics and think that our knowledge of quantum physics is relatively new and is what has allowed us, unlike anyone else in history, to develop atomic energy, land on the moon, build computers, cars, television, the internet, artificial intelligence, and so much more. But most of the knowledge that led us to these advances was already known by our ancestors nearly 2,600 years ago. Nearly 2,600 years ago. The only difference is that their knowledge was suppressed by the dogmatists before they could use it to make the kind of advances that we have. But our advances are based on the rediscovery of what they already knew back then. The Renaissance and the Enlightenment that followed are the result of having discovered less than 10% of what our ancestors understood, which makes them extremely impressive. Anaximander, for example, a student of Thales of Miletus, the first Greek philosopher, is the first person we know of anywhere to understand the earth is a body of finite dimensions floating in empty space. Imagine that, 2,600 years ago, somebody through observation concluding that the flat earth, the obviously flat earth that must be held up by something, is an object floating in space. This idea isn't remarkable to us today unless we're among back at that time. It's stunning. Anaximander also understood that rainwater is water from the sea and rivers that evaporate because of the sun's heat. In splitting clouds, earthquakes are caused by fissures in the earth. He also said that all animals, get this, all animals originally came from the sea or from the primal humidity that once covered the earth. The first animals were thus either fish or fish-like creatures. They moved onto land when the earth became dry and they adapted to living there. Human beings in particular cannot have been born in their current form because babies are not self-sufficient, so someone else has to feed them. They grew out of fish-like creatures. Again, Anaximander came to these conclusions through reason and observation more than 2,500 years before Newton, Darwin, and Einstein. A few years after Anaximander expressed his unprecedented theories, a couple of other Milesian philosophers, Leucippus and his brilliant student Democritus, developed atomic theory. According to physicist and philosopher Carlo Rovelli, Democritus explained that the entire universe is made up of a boundless space in which innumerable atoms run. Space is without limits, has neither an above nor a below, is without a center or a boundary. Atoms have no qualities at all apart from their shape. They have no weight, no color, no taste. In Democritus's own words, sweetness is opinion. Bitterness is opinion. Heat, cold, and color are opinion. In reality, only atoms and vacuum. Anaximander, Leucippus, and Democritus understood things about nature and the nature of reality that weren't discovered, but rediscovered in the modern era by giants like Darwin and Einstein. But the genius of these more ancient thinkers was all but erased by the one right and righteous idea of the Roman Catholic Church. Again, as Rovelli puts it, centuries dominated by monotheism have not permitted the survival of Democritus's naturalism. The closure of the ancient schools, such as those of Athens and Alexandria, and the destruction of all the texts not in accordance with Christian ideas was vast and systematic. Christianity was to be the only and obligatory religion of the empire. What we do know of these ancient physicists is mostly from a few fragments of ideas explained in the writings of Aristotle. I should say a few fragments or ideas explained in the writings of Aristotle. We also have an impressive list of titles, the titles of Democritus's many writings. Just the titles. I'm going to read them all to you, just to understand the magnitude of this loss. Great cosmology, little cosmology, cosmography, on the planets, on nature, on human nature, on intelligence, on the senses, on the soul, on flavors, on color, on diverse movements of the atoms, of changes in shape, the causes of celestial phenomena, the causes of atmospheric phenomenon, on fire and on things of fire, the causes of acoustic phenomenon, concerning the magnet, the causes of seeds, plants, and fruits, on animals, a description of the sky, geography, a description of the pole, on geometry, geometrical reality, on the tangents of the circle and the sphere, numbers, on irrational lines and solids, projections, astronomy, astronomical tables, on rays of light, on reflected images, on rhythm and harmony, on poetry, on the beautiful song, on euphony and cacophony, concerning Homer, or on the correct epic diction, the science of medicine, on agriculture, on words, on names, on values, and on virtue, on the disposition that characterizes the wise, on painting, on treaties on tactics, circumnavigation of the ocean, on history, the thought of Chaldea, the thought of the Phrygians, on the sacred writings of Babylon, on the sacred writings of Miro, on fevers and coughs deriving from illness, legal questions, Pythagoras, on logic or criterion of thought, confirmations, points of ethics, on well-being. Gone. All gone. And the same things that scientists would be writing about today. These are just his titles. Hence the title of my sermon, Crying Over the Spilled Milky Way. In reading history, I mourn the loss of what could have been. I imagine what the world might be like today if our ancient ancestors, just as smart or smarter than us, had been honored and believed instead of silenced and condemned. Imagine if by the time Copernicus had to recant and Galileo was imprisoned for proclaiming heliocentric theories of our solar system, the question had long been settled. And we had already gone to the moon, maybe even to Mars, and had the internet, quantum computers, AI, and had already passed through our destructive and dangerous era of environmental degradation and found ways to restore Earth's life-sustaining systems and to live in technological harmony with nature, because our ancestors had believed the writings and teachings of Anaximander and Democritus instead of worshiping a single book of obvious, absurd fictions while banning and destroying all others. Look how far we've come in just 120 years since Einstein's theory of relativity. Yet there were more than 1,500 years between Democritus and Copernicus. Imagine what humanity could have accomplished during all those centuries compared to what we, with the same knowledge at our disposal, have accomplished in little more than a century. Another way to put it is imagine where we're going to be in 1,500 years. So yes, I'm crying over the spilled Milky Way. But my metaphor for having lost the groundbreaking scientific knowledge of our world and universe that was discovered centuries before even Christ was born. That's the thing about studying history. It grieves us. Not because mistakes were made, but because we realize we're still suffering the impacts of those ancient mistakes, and worse, are still making some of those same mistakes today. But the point of studying history is not to grieve what we've lost, but to learn from the mistakes of the past so that we can move forward and make real progress. History reminds us that the only way forward is to be open-minded and open-hearted toward others. It means embracing our common humanity and respecting the worth and dignity of others, no matter where they come from or what they believe. That's what history teaches us. It means facing reality on its own terms, whether we like those terms or not, by embracing reason and science and genuine facts. It means committing to a society that guarantees the freedoms and the rights of everyone, including especially those we might disagree with. The freedom to speak and think for ourselves, the freedom to be innovative and creative. And it means we must tolerate one another no matter how different we might be, no matter how much we might disagree. We must learn to live and let live. The very bottom line, the very base necessity is to live and let live. We don't have to like our neighbors or be like our neighbors, but we must love them, because caring about the welfare and valuing their rights as much as our own is what love means. None of us needs to be a genius to understand this is the path forward. It's not brain science. It's something we already understand, and considering what history teaches us is something we've already understood on some level always. So let's put our hands to the plowshare and move forward, but not without looking back over our shoulders now and again to remember where we come from. Because after all, there's no sense crying over spilled Milky Ways. Thank you.
I'm going to sing a song called Touch the Earth and Reach the Sky. And this song is new to me, so you guys get to sing really loud.
For our benediction, I offer the words of American writer, teacher, and institutional consultant Margaret Wheatley, whose work focuses on creating organizations and communities worthy of human habitation. There is no power for change greater than a community discovering what it cares about. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.